I first met Shamar, gosh, was it my first year on the job, I think, or maybe my second year on the job as head of school. And I got to meet Shamar at an alumni gathering in Los Angeles and was just so thrilled to meet her and her sister. Right. And to learn about your story at Royce-Moore. To introduce you, I'm going to just read about some of your accomplishments. So bear with me, Shamar, as I talk about you.
Okay, sure.
So Shamar is a television writer, screenwriter, and playwright hailing from now Chicago again. And she was a staff writer for the CW Network's drama series VALOR. Shamar earned her MFA in dramatic writing from NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, where she received the 2016 Outstanding Writing for Half-Hour Television Award. We're going to hear a little bit more from her about her experience, her kind of cool experiences while she was at Tisch. Her 10-minute play, Detained, received its world premiere at the Obie award-winning The Fire This Time Festival in New York City. Shamar is a decorated Army combat veteran, having served tours of duty in both Iraq and Afghanistan. And she received the Will and Jada Pinkett Smith Family Foundation Screenwriting Award at the 2016 Fusion Film Festival for her feature screenplay, Summer K.A.O.S, K-A-O-S. Mm-hmm. 2 of her plays have been semi-finalist for the Eugene O'Neill National Playwrights Conference. And most recently, Shamar was a finalist for Adam Driver's Arts in the Armed Forces 2020 Bridge Award for her full-length play, Brooklyn Patchwork. That's a lot of accomplishment in your life so far, and I know you're only just getting started, Shamar. Welcome to Griffin Greats. We're so glad to have you. Glad to have you back in our town.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be back here after living in LA?
It feels great. I mean, I'm staying south now, on the south side, which is actually, that's what's new to me because I'm a north sider. So I feel like I'm kind of getting to relearn Chicago, see it from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm. So what are the things that you noticed that are new to you?
I don't think I realized how close, like the neighborhoods. I have friends who live in Chicago when I was in LA and New York, and I would come back and we'd get together and I wouldn't know where they lived. I just couldn't visualize it. So now I'm riding, I'm driving certain areas. And I'm like, oh, wait, this is Ukrainian village. This is where my friend lives. She's over here, oh, we're not that far apart as, I'm thinking we are. Because I really stayed on the red line when I was growing up. Like, north, south, that's it. I didn't go west.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm seeing, I think how lively it is here, even during the pandemic. I mean, the outside life in Chicago. Like, that's obvious in LA. People live outside, that's your environment. But here, even in the winter, I still see people out and about and doing everything.
Yeah.
And I'm jealous when I see people running and it's freezing. And I think I should be out there. Why? I used to be able to do that when I was in the Army, but as a civilian, it's like I can't get myself to go do it.
That just feels like hard labor, probably.
Yeah, but I'm inspired. But that's why the city inspires me when I see people out. Yeah, I don't know. It's a great place. That's why I'm back. I mean, I wasn't as inspired in Los Angeles as I am here.
So are you doing writing now?
Yeah, I'm working on stuff. I'm working on a TV pilot. I'm working on that with, I'm a co-writer. There's a guy, his name is Sam Wolfson, and he created, what is it called? Tall Girl on Netflix. So we're working on something together. Hopefully that works out. I'm working on another TV pilot, my own, a feature screenplay, and a book.
Wow.
So it's
No moss growing on Shamar.
no, I mean, I'm always writing or working on something because that's what you have to do.
Mm.
This type of industry takes time.
Do you have a particular practice to kind of keep you organized in your writing, like a particular time of the day, or particular approaches you use to keep yourself motivated?
For me, it depends on what I'm writing, the project. It's kind of different. I think there's different phases. So if I have an idea, I'm kind of just jotting down stuff for a while until I have enough where I'm inspired to start writing an outline or a script. Like in the phase I'm in right now, I'm working on a few different scripts, but I'm in script phase. So I like to write in the morning if I can. I have my coffee and I just start going in, and I could write for 8 hours straight, really.
Really? Wow.
I can. When I have that time, which it's harder now, but when I have that time, I can write that long. And it's not just sitting there typing, but you're thinking, you're researching sometimes, you're procrastinating. It's all within that 8 hours. You're doing all of that stuff. Yeah, and I try to have a routine. It depends just on that project because one thing I'm working on, I'm going so fast. It's just like flowing right out. Other things, probably the one that's more military based, even though that's some of my personal experience, that takes me longer. I think it's just because it's personal. It's I don't know. I think a lot when I'm working on it as opposed to just writing it out.
What's your favorite part of the writing process?
I love that question. My favorite part, I think I like the first 10 pages the most because, well, first of all, those are the pages that will catch the attention of whoever's reading it. So for me, that's where the highest stakes are. And so that's the challenge is, can I write something
Good
that's
point. Gotta catch them.
Yeah, you have to. And I don't really get afraid of the blank page because if I have anything written down already, a brainstorm or the outline, I just look at that and I start writing. If I have something, I can cut and paste, and that takes away the blank page. So that doesn't really worry me, but getting those 10 pages, it's just fun and exciting. Yeah, I never thought about that question until you asked it to me.
Good. Are there particular things that give you inspiration for either the start of a new project or when you're in a project? You mentioned at the beginning of our conversation about you feel more inspired here in Chicago. At the very first school I worked at, Tom Clancy was a parent there. Oh. Actually, he was a parent and a grandparent at the same time, which is really interesting. But he could only write at his home there in Calvert County. Like that was the place where he had to be to write. So I'm just curious about what are the tricks that are important to writers to get you in that space, to bring you what you need in order to produce great work?
And this pandemic has been very challenging. I could say that because normally I'd like to be alone in a nice quiet place. Well, I don't want to say normally. Maybe when I'm getting started, that's what I need because I'm still thinking and processing, and so I kind of need a quiet space. And I loved, especially when I was in school, but I love the library. That's one of my favorite places to write. I remember at Roycemore going to the library there and just feeling inspired by the books and stories surrounding me, and artwork. Like, just that was always a place of inspiration for me. And so in school, we would meet at the library, me and my friends. And then when I finished school, I would look for the libraries in LA. Here, there's a library really close by, so sometimes I'll go there, or I used to, but gone to the Chicago Public Library, was it Harold Washington? I love to go there.
Yeah, I love libraries.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah. That's what attracted my daughter to where she went to college initially. Chris Deutsch, I see he's on this, on this webinar. Yeah, you'll love the Vassar Library. It's amazing. So, you know, libraries are really important places. And I noticed Sarah made a comment about Libby Hill. She said, Libby Hill, you hear that about libraries?
True, Libby, yes.
Yeah, so that's great. You like libraries and you get inspired by thinking about all the stories that are in those volumes around you.
Yes, my sister is in Palatine, and when I'm visiting her, I've gone to the library up there too. I mean, I will find the library and go spend some time there. I can do work in cafes. It just depends. But it's kind of fun to find a place that, you know, your cafe, because I have to have my coffee. I do have to do that. That's very stereotypical, but
key point. Key point.
And then there's certain times where I get into a phase where I know what I'm doing with the story. I know the characters really well. And then I can be someplace where it is busy, like a cafe or, I don't know, outside, or, you know, I can be anywhere pretty much, because I know the story, I know where it's going, and I'm just flowing through it. So there's two different phases for me: when I don't know what I'm doing and what I do.
That's cool. At what point in your career did you realize I'm a writer? I have a career now as a writer. I'm making a living as a writer. Was there a moment where you felt like I've done it?
No.
No?
And my friends, you know, some of my other friends, it's I think because you're always, I mean, I'm not a household name. I don't have a bunch of things produced. I feel like you have to get to a certain level to really feel like a writer, like you're really a professional writer, or making a living. You can feel like a writer. Like, I feel like a writer, and my friends, we all feel like professional writers. We do the work, we put in the time, and a lot of it you are not getting paid for. A lot of the development that you're doing, it's a whole process, and you have to love it and be passionate about it and believe in it to stick with it. And eventually you'll get there financially, but it takes time. And so I've never really, I feel like okay, you're always on to the next, like, what's the next thing?
Yeah.
I think actors feel like this too. You do one job, and then you're kind of like, okay, trying to hustle and make the next move, and hopefully that's going to lead to something. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of work.
What kind of pressure is that you feel then when you're in the midst of the writing process and knowing, like, this is how I'm making my living, and you're not, you know, you're not, I guess, I mean, when you're writing your plays, you're not working from an advance, I'm guessing.
Right. Well, I mean, because I'm doing different types of writing, so like we call it dramatic writing, which is television, screenwriting, and playwriting. So when I was writing for the TV show, I guess there was a moment there like, wow, I'm actually writing for something that's getting produced and I'm getting paid. Like, there was a moment of that. And then when that was over, it's kind of like, oh, now I gotta start all over again. And like, try to meet more people. You have to, it's like going on interviews you go to meetings, and you have to have something else that you're working on. So, oh, wait, what was your other? What was your other question? I feel like I got lost there.
That's okay. I'm gonna move on to something else I was wondering about though. So I noticed that VALOR, which you had such great success with, even though it was just 2 seasons, or 2 years, but is now on Netflix.
This one, it only got one season.
Was it 2017 and 18, right?
Well, that's when it came out. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, but it's on Netflix.
Right.
You can see a lot of the. So if we all go and watch VALOR on Netflix, do you get any payments?
Well, we get residual checks.
Residual checks?
Yeah. So yeah,
so everybody should go watch VALOR, not only to see Shamar's amazing work, but to help her get the residuals.
Right. And that's something I didn't expect. I didn't even really know about until later. So that's a really cool perk. I'm in the Writers Guild of America, so that's part of being in the guild, and that's something that they fought for to make sure that. I mean, I don't know how many years ago it was, but we weren't always getting residuals. That's something that the guild, really wanted to work on. So, and they're constantly trying to just get better benefits for writers.
Yeah.
Because the landscapes change so much and move so fast. There's always something, that we have to adapt to.
Right. So what are the biggest changes in the landscape currently?
A lot has to do with the streaming networks. Network TV was the old way, I guess you could say. And writers would be in rooms for like 21 weeks. It was just more organized and laid out. And now with the streaming networks, they have a lot of rooms, and there's so much content out there. They'll have mini rooms, and you won't work that long, and you won't get paid as much. And so that is one area where they want to get more benefits to writers putting in that time, even though it's shorter, like healthcare benefits. Some people aren't making enough to get that.
Right.
So things like that, I think, like screenwriting, they don't want, another rule is they don't want writers leaving behind work when you have meetings, because it's kind of like free work. Like if you turn in your outline, or a producer executive says, can I see, what do you have? Can I see that? Can you leave it with me? So there's a problem there, because they haven't paid you for that. And a lot of writers, like I said, we're working on stuff for free, or you're developing, you're not getting paid. So trying to find a balance where we can get paid for all the work that we put in, that's always a battle back and forth. Yeah.
And who do you have to guide you through all of this? I mean, I'm sure when you went into becoming a writer, like you had no idea of the landscape. I mean, was maybe NYU helped prepare you for some of the business of that? But it's ever changing. So, right. Where do you go to understand that landscape, the legal landscape, to protect you as a writer? Any of that aspect? I'm curious.
Well, yeah, NYU, some of my professors I'm still in touch with, and so I feel like on the creative side, they're my guidance, and they know the business too, so they can help with advice on navigating the business. But my own personal career, I have a manager who I find she's great, and she helps me out a lot. Like if I need a lawyer, she knows the connections. She knows the business really well. Like, and I had an agent. The agents handle a lot of the business.
Okay.
Um,
And are they the ones who are out sort of pitching you to be a writer for a pilot or a series and that sort
yeah,
of thing?
so they have they do all the networking, really. I mean, yeah, they pitch you, and they have relationships. That's the thing that I've learned is my manager and my agent, they have relationships already. If you're lucky, it could be a new person, but the new person also has relationships. Like, that's how this business really works. And relationships can get you certain meetings. So the agents, they know so many people, so they're pitching and doing all that and talking you up and finding projects that maybe fit the work that they have of yours. And my manager, usually she's doing more of the guidance on my writing and what I should be working on for, like, my priorities, I guess you could say. And then being part of the Writers Guild helps me also with the business, because if I do have questions, I can call the guild, I can ask them, and they can help me out. They're always sending information. Yeah, so there's definitely resources out there.
Okay, great. Yeah, not having ever done any of this work or known anyone who's done this work, I was curious about that. So thanks for sharing.
No problem.
When you think back to your time at Roycemore, can you see any seeds of your time as a student here that that you can reflect on to say, I was really interested in that. I understand why I ended up being a writer.
I think, yeah, I definitely started at Roycemore. I mean, I think I was in the fifth grade maybe, and we had a school newspaper. I think it was called the Griffin Gazette. I don't know, maybe Chris remembers, but and there was a writing contest, like for, I think it was just best story or something like that. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna submit, because I had some ideas in my head. I had waited for the school bus to come. I would sit there and kind of daydream, and then I'd create characters, and I'd create a whole story waiting for the school bus to come.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I didn't live with my dad when I was in lower school, middle school to lower school. So I did have I took the school bus, you know, and I actually won that contest in 5th grade. And I remember I beat out, I don't know, 8th graders, or, you know, it was just, that was
Signs of greatness.
That was a big deal to me. It was, and it was a story about a kid who had a bad day, and everything went wrong. I just remember that was the story. So yeah, that was a big deal.
What's your jam then in the story? Like, what are the kinds of stories you like to tell?
I like to tell. I'm super character driven. I love relationships, family stories. So everything I write pretty much revolves around either a blood family or a group of people that are becoming a family. Similar to the military, you know, they become your family. Yeah, and it's very, I'm way more character driven than I would say plot. I you know, that's the hard part for me is I like people just talking, working things out.
You like the dialogue then?
Yes, very much. That's how I started. I mean, I didn't know what type of writing I was doing, but I would write a character, a name, and then I'd have them say something. Then I'd write another character, and they'd say something. That's just how I started writing. I didn't write big descriptive and paragraphs. I did for that story, because that was the guy. But yeah, that's how I started, just characters talking to each other.
Yeah. So there's this other really interesting part of your career, having gone into the Army. And you know, I'm curious, what inspired you to join the Army, and how that has informed your life today, that experience.
Well, I joined right after, a few months after 9/11. So yeah, this is the anniversary. And I think I definitely was interested when I was younger. So even at Roysmore, I remember my dad was in the Army. So he was always reading history books about the military. He was in the Army for about 4 years, but he stayed fascinated with the Army, the military. And I'd see some of his old like Army gear and photos at home. My grandfather was in the Navy. I remember seeing pictures of him. So I was always a little, fascinated as well. I remember I used to wear a beret. I had, I went through a phase. And that's what I thought it was, a phase when I was younger, probably, I don't say middle school, lower school. And then I just forgot about it until 9/11. And when that happened, and I was watching the news, it was more of the National Guard and supporting Ground Zero. And that just, something about them taking action, like, hit me. And I was like, oh gosh, this is something I kind of want to be a part of in some way. I don't know how. And just then talking with a friend, and next thing you know, I was at the recruiting office, and
wow,
they talked me into it. They're good because they're salesmen, recruiters. So I really was like, wow, this sounds like something I need. I had graduated college, and I wasn't sure what I was trying to do. I started thinking about writing, but I don't know. I think I was just at this weird crossroad, and I knew that I needed to just join the Army, and I could, find myself in this sense.
So what impact did that experience have on your life today?
It's huge. I mean, I served like 11 years total. And that I'm still trying to get used to life, civilian life. But I mean, it really informs a lot of my stories now, because I still don't see the story, like the experience that I had necessarily on screen or on TV. And it makes me appreciate, I guess that, I appreciate Chicago. I've always appreciated Chicago, but I just appreciate the little things, the time that I have, and being present in the moment. It's just a lot of preparation. Like the preparation that I learned in the military helps my writing now. The discipline that I learned. And I think I see it every day when I'm interacting with people. I don't know, I think I have a different mindset sometimes. And that's
you have to.
ingrained in me, yeah.
And what role did you play in the Army?
When I first joined, I was in the 82nd Airborne Division, so I got to jump out of airplanes, which I loved. Another tribute to my dad, because he used to, for fun, go skydiving. And I remember asking him, oh, can I go with you? And I was too young. He's like, when you're 18. And then I forgot about it. I don't know, or he stopped doing it. But so when I was enlisting, they asked me, hey, do you want to jump out of airplanes? And I was like, yes. I just said yes, because my dad did, it, and then it was completely different than what he did. Skydiving is not the same as combat jumping with a whole bunch of gear on, and you're not attached to anybody else. It's just you, and you're responsible for a lot of things.
No kidding.
But
were you, when you were jumping out of airplanes, were you jumping into hostile territory? I mean, what was going on?
No, I never had to do that. And we train though, that's what we were training for. So you're train as you fight, as they say. So we've done night jumps before, you're jumping with your weapon. Yeah, you're training to go into combat. Luckily that never happened.
Yeah, you're lucky for sure.
So, but that's how you treat it. And that was one of my favorite though experiences. Actually.
Were there many other women in your unit?
Like everywhere I went, pretty much there weren't that many. You could count on one hand how many females were airborne school, and like the halls would be empty, the female side, because there weren't that many of us. We'd have our own rooms. The males, they were all together, and in my actual unit that I went to, I think there was about 8 of us when we deployed. It was about 100 and something, soldiers, but 8 of us.
Wow. So you really had to hold your own, right? Like you probably weren't treated a lot differently because you're a woman, you had to suck it up and do the hard work.
Yeah, I mean, I think the type of unit I was in, we were just also like trying to be hardcore. It was a lot of us, I mean, I felt like we had a lot of respect. I think just because the type of unit we were in, even though there weren't a lot of us, I mean, there were times where there was some sexism, but it didn't, what's the word I'm looking for, define my time in the unit. Mm-hmm. Every now and then there was something that would come up, and either I would address it or it was addressed, but mostly I felt like I was with like my brothers and sisters, like we were there together. We deployed a lot. My first unit, we deployed twice together. So we really bonded a lot. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to, I used to always try to exceed the standards. So do so well that nobody would have anything to say about me being a female. So I think that's how I protected myself. And that's not always the case in for everyone. So there's definitely, I'm sure, some stories.
I bet. So you were a minority in gender. Were you also a minority in race?
No, not in the military. Well, the certain areas, when I became an officer, I felt like I was more of a minority then. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I had a lot of, there was such a diverse group of people. I really didn't know, like I knew people from Puerto Rico, from, not Cuba, from Mexico, from all kinds of places that I had never, I only knew people from Illinois, really. Yeah. Beforehand. And so, I don't know, it was just really diverse. I knew people from West Africa and, yeah. And I just couldn't, for me, I was like, wow, you're here. Yeah, it's an incredible experience. So those experiences have to be incredibly trying, incredibly stressful. In those moments of the greatest difficulty, as you reflect back on it today, what do you feel like you learned most about yourself? In the military, from being in the military? I think I learned probably that I'm braver than I thought I was. Like I didn't think I was. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm scared of heights, but sometimes I feel that I get nervous going high, I'm not. You're jumping out of planes. Yeah, and then I'm jumping out of planes. So I'm like, oh, wow, how did I do that? The fear, there's like a real fear comes over you. Or at least for me, it would come over me and a lot of other soldiers right before you jump. And then But the training would kick in, and you'd have to just, you know, calm yourself. Like I learned how to really calm myself and handle the situation. So maybe that's what I learned. Maybe that's it.
Wow. And do you find that that skill has been something that you've been able to draw upon throughout your life since, during times of stress?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah, handling stress is probably the big thing for me, because of the situations I've been in. Um, I don't, I don't panic a lot. I found, because that's, you just can't do that. Yeah, you can't do that, and that will, in the military, that could get somebody killed or injured, or you know, things go bad. So, I really think I've learned how to handle stress in a way that's very helpful, especially in the career that I'm in now. It's very different. It's not life threatening, but you have to do things that, like going into a meeting or something. That's, you know, this could be a big deal, this meeting. So trying to stay calm for that. So I've learned how to do that. And you meet so many people. You can meet people that you admire, and you know, you have to have, you know, be calm about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I know, I think sometimes I don't really see it until I'm around other people and how they react to things. Then I'm like, oh, what is that? What am I doing? That's,
yeah, this calm presence that you have inside of yourself that you learned from that time. You know, we're now in the midst of a pandemic, and a pandemic within a pandemic, with respect to social justice and race issues across America. Have you found that what you gained from that time being in the military has helped you with the stress of this moment?
Definitely. Sometimes it feels like this is what a deployment is like, when you are quarantined, kind of being not trapped, but like in a place where you have to stay, and on the outside there's, you know, danger. Like that is very familiar to me. It's also familiar to me to know that, oh well, I have to go to the store, I have to do this, you know, go to this location. Like going out into the world and wearing my mask, like getting my gear, it's like getting my gear on to go outside the world. Like all that.
Wow, I love that analogy.
It's all very familiar to me. So I'm like, well, we have to do what we have to do. So I'm not afraid to go out, but I'm also going to protect myself, and I'm very, maybe it's just a little bit of my, you know, I don't want to say PTSD, but like being very alert and aware, and trying to just, you know, aware of my surroundings when I leave. All that just starts happening.
Oh, that's really powerful. That is something that you gained from that experience. You know, I think about our young people today in our school at Royce Moore, and this unprecedented time that they're experiencing, the amount of stress and uncertainty in the world around them, where they have adults who are also stressed out. You know, they don't necessarily have adult figures that have it under control, because we don't, right? So, you know, I'm wondering if you would have any advice for young people today. You know, think about maybe some of our middle school, high school kids, especially, who, you know, aspire to greatness, and they're struggling with what they're experiencing in the world around them, and the uncertainty ahead of them. If there's, you know, any wisdom from your experience, particularly in the military, and also navigating a career where you were very much in the minority and having to kind of work your way up. What advice might you offer?
I mean, I would say, well, since I'm a writer, I mean, if there's anything you're experiencing, and like write about it and get it out of your system. Like to me, that's a type of freedom. So even though you have to stay home, or you can only go to one place like school and come back home. That's something that I would do. Also trying to find a way to exercise. I mean, it's hard. When you're an adult, you start to slip a little bit. That happens to all of us. But something like going outside for a walk, or if you're inside. The little one here, we have her doing push-ups and sit-ups every now and then. Just try, that helps relieve stress, really, doing some kind of exercise. So those are the two things that I would recommend.
All right, that's excellent advice, especially given that you are the daughter of a PE teacher.
Right.
And a quite famous one in Roycemore history, no less. Right. I never had the opportunity to meet your dad, but his name was one that came up early on in my tenure here, Mr. White.
Yes.
And apparently he had a saying that got everybody going. Yeah.
Lord have mercy. I think that's the one that he used a lot. Because kids would always just, surprise him, make him laugh.
How was it being a student here while your dad was a PE teacher?
It was great. I mean, I love seeing my dad at school, unless I was doing something, unless I was with my friends being a little mischievous, that was the only thing he might hear about something I did much quicker than the other kids' parents. But it's
like being the preacher's kid, right?
Yeah, in a way.
Under a microscope.
But my dad was never watching me while I was at school. He was never like made me feel like, oh gosh, I gotta hide from him. Like I said, only if I knew I was doing something, I was like, uh-oh, I might get in trouble. Like it, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I love to be at practices with him when he was coaching soccer and basketball. I learned a lot from just watching him. I mean, I think that's really how I got good. Before I even started playing basketball and soccer myself, I was watching him. I would go to practices in the summer with him when he was doing conditioning for soccer. I loved doing that. And it was so hard, but I loved it. So yeah, he was a big influence on my life and everything.
Well, that's terrific. I know people have so many fond memories of Mr. White.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace.
Thank you.
I'm going to open it up for questions, but before we do that, because I see there's some questions out there and there might be some folks who just want to come on and ask you questions. But I'd love to hear about your play that won the 2020 Bridge Award, Brooklyn Patchwork. What can you tell us about that?
Well, it was a finalist. I didn't win, but I came close. It's a play about a girl from Chicago, and she moves to New York, and she was in the military, again, pulling from my own experiences. And it was something inspired very much by my first year in New York and the apartment building I was in, and all the people that lived there. And it always seemed like there was some kind of tension. And so I wrote this play about this family, this community, really, because that's, again, I really love writing about people and people who you would never think to be friends, becoming friends. And the main character, she's struggling to pay her rent, and she starts trying to figure out how to survive in New York City. And she's also dealing with some trauma from her military experience. And yeah, it's fun. It's a really fun play, actually, with serious subject matters, but the characters are just really funny.
Terrific. If someone wanted to read it, how might they get their hands on it?
Well, it's not, what do you call it, published or anything like that. Okay. Someone, they'd have to just contact me.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it'll be, again, you're always trying to put stuff out there, and maybe one day I'll try to put it up myself. It's just, we'll see.
All right. Terrific. All right. Well, thank you. Let's open it up for some questions. I see there's a couple of questions in the chat. Question is, how did you start out? What steps did you take to open doors and to write for television and theater?
I started out, well, I was looking up schools. I really wanted to go to school for it. I wanted to be in a program where I could focus on writing only. But in order to do that, I had to submit a TV script. I had to choose TV, playwriting or screenwriting. I chose television, and I didn't know how to write a television script, even though I was saying I wanted to do this. So I had to find books on television writing. And then I took a little course, UCLA Extension, I think it was. I was just looking for a way to take a course to help me write a script. And I was reading about it, or, using the internet. That's really how I started, at least trying to, so I could get into school. But it was really exciting because I was like, oh, I just wrote a TV script, and that got me into the school. So I would suggest, looking at schools, seeing what the requirements are is an interesting way to try to learn how to write, because there's a lot of different, guidelines in the applications.
All right, terrific. Our next one is from Chris Deutsch, who is on with us.
Yay, Chris.
It was so much fun going to Roysmar with you for 9 years, and I really enjoyed playing soccer with you and playing for your father. I'm so sorry for your loss. He was loved by everyone, and I miss him dearly. What was it like playing soccer with him as your high school coach? And would you like to share any stories about your father, our legendary coach?
Wow. Thanks, Chris. I know, it was so fun. So I played on the boys soccer team at Roysmar because there was no girls team. So another great thing about my dad was that he knew I loved soccer, and he saw potential in me. And so he's the one who's like, I think I told him, well, I want to play soccer, but there's no girls team. And he was like, well, why don't you play for the boys team? Like, it was no question to him. He was like, yeah, you might as well play on our team. And so I got to play on the boys team, and I proved myself. I love playing with Chris. Oh, that was a good time. I loved, I was the only girl, but I loved bonding with the guys, as you could say. And I probably had a crush on a bunch of them and that kind of thing. So I had the best of both worlds.
That's awesome.
I don't know. Stories about my dad. That's a story right there. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to think about a specific story, but I like hearing other people tell me stories that I've never heard, which I got a lot of after you passed away.
I bet you did.
But yeah, and I think because I had my dad's approval, he's the one who suggested I play, I felt like, okay, that I can do this. Like, there's the picture of Chris right there.
I think Sarah just brought him forward so he could share with you, perhaps.
I do remember, though, I think I scored a goal and Chris Deutsch picking me up and giving me a kiss. You remember?
Hey,
I remember that.
I don't remember that, but that was
Yeah. You were
that
excited.
definitely could have happened. Was that my senior year?
Probably, yeah, probably, yeah. It was.
Well, yeah, I was just, my wife is over here. I was just telling her that not only were you like just one of the best people, you were the best player on the team my senior year as a sophomore. She was 2 years younger than me. So I learned a lot from Shamar, and I learned a ton from her father. Her father was a very great man.
Awesome.
Miss him.
Oh, yeah, me too. That is so, yeah. But, yeah, it was a sophomore. Yeah, it was fun. We were not a winning team. By any
We
means.
played hard though.
We did. We played hard. We really did. And I think we had fun. That's the thing I feel like it was fun. That's all I really remember. And my dad drove the bus. Like, it was just
All in the family. We're a big community, right?
yeah.
Shamar, there's a question that Libby Hill has posted.
Oh.
She is apparently on this, and she wants to know, do you have any favorite books?
Yes. Well, when I was younger, I think it was Dear Mr. Henshaw. That book, I think because he was the kid, he was writing a letter to his favorite writer, and that meant something to me. And he was getting, the writer would write him back, and he was having a tough time in his life with his mom and his mom's boyfriend, I believe. It was a long time ago, but I remember connecting with him. My mom and dad were divorced when I was really young, so I understood. So I had a single mom. She was raising me for the most part. And then I went with my dad in high school, but so I connected with this kid because he had a single mom and he was writing letters to his favorite writer. And then I took that and I did the same thing, writing to my favorites. Yeah, so that's one of my favorite books. And what else? I have another favorite book, but it's not, it's called Wise Guy. And then that's the book that the movie Goodfellas came from. That was an inspiration to me too, for some reason.
That's a good one.
It's a different world, so that was just fascinating to me. Yeah.
All right.
I remember looking at The Outsiders too. I remember going to the library and finding that book and being obsessed with it.
And our middle school students still read that one today.
Yeah.
They have a day too where they all dress up and then they watch the film.
Wow.
I think we have a special guest that just joined on screen. No, maybe she popped up back off. Pop back on. Libby Hill.
This is hell.
You just asked me to mute.
Oh.
I can start the video. Start the
There you
video.
are. Hi.
Hi, Shamar. Shamar, I just looked up the Dear Mr. Henshaw, and it was by Beverly Cleary.
Yes,
I
Beverly.
remember you reading that. Yeah.
Those first books, I mean, that really, stays with you. At least stayed with me. And I even thought about maybe one day, like writing a children's book, like something in that genre, that age group. I'm always thinking about doing it. It'll happen one day.
That would be fun if you did that. It would be fun to see how you could, mine your memory.
Right.
And put that into a character or two.
Right. I think it's like coming of age. I love coming of age stories, so that's pretty much where that came from.
Yeah, me too.
Libby, it's so good to see you. Thank you for joining us today.
I certainly wanted to see Shamar. I mean,
so lovely.
Shamar, I never thought about you. I mean, I loved your dad, but I never thought about you having, having your dad right there. You were just your own individual person, not with a not with a dad in the school, but just your own self, your own particular self, with your own interesting character. And I never really thought until just now that, you know, how much it must have meant to you to have your dad there.
Yeah, and well, that's a tribute to him as far as you seeing me as an individual, because like I said, he wasn't always watching me or lurking around the corner. And when I did see it, I would be happy to see him, or it was just a normal thing to see him. But when I was in high school, I started, you know, having a little fun doing things, getting in trouble, and you know, just being a teenager. And those were the times that I try to sneak around without him seeing me.
Yeah, good for you.
I think he was too distracted chasing after us. We caused a lot of trouble in the locker room. I remember it was, in his office.
So folks, we have 2 minutes left. I saw Karen Houston came on. I didn't know if you had a question, Karen.
I might have done that by mistake.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah, I don't have a question.
Okay.
I was trying to get Libby, and I got
Karen.
Karen.
Sarah, did you have any other questions from?
There was just one from Facebook, and it was from Megan Vandehay.
Oh, Meg.
She wanted to say, "Why didn't you tell me you were being interviewed, Shamar?" So I just thought I would express that on Megan's behalf.
Thank you, Megan. Megan's one of my best friends from Roysmore. We're still, you know, we've been going strong for many years now.
Yeah, she's watching on Facebook, so
She's
you'll probably hear it.
One of the friends I said, I didn't realize where the area she lived in when I used to visit until like this year. I'm like, oh, I see where she is. It's very convenient. She's not super far.
Wow. Well, this has been terrific. Shamar, thank you so much for joining us today. Chris and Libby, thanks for popping on as well.
Great to see you guys.
It's great to see you, Shamar. You're
You
doing
too.
so well. So proud of you.
Thank you.
You too, Mrs. Hill.
Good to see you, Chris.
It's delightful for me to see the power of this little school touching people through generations and generations. And it took a pandemic to bring us all together on Zoom, but here we are, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity. And I just really appreciate you sharing so much of yourself with us, Shamar. I think you have such an inspiring story, and I hope that it touches other people the way it touched me today.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I love Roysmore, and I hope it inspired somebody out there.
For sure. And we've got it recorded, so it will continue to inspire many in times to come.
Awesome.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for taking part of your Saturday.
Thanks for having this. Thanks for doing this, Adrian.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, guys. Take care. Good
Stay
seeing you.
safe out there.
Take care, Shmar.
You too.
Take two.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.